Well, time now for our Explainer, a regular feature right here on Thursday on Citizen TV. Now, Dorcas Wangira has given you an overview of what you can expect to find on the questionnaire when the enumerators visit your house from the 24th. But nevertheless, I want to try and get a little bit deeper and give you the thematic areas that the makers of that questionnaire were seeking to sort of mine data from. And that's what we get to at this time. Okay, so let's move to that slide, which will give you a list. Okay, let's try that one more time. Technology. Hopefully the gadgets that will be used for the census won't have the same challenge. Good. We seem to be in business. Fantastic. So thematic areas. They'll be looking to get data on population characteristics, disability, education, and labor force. In terms of population characteristics, here we're talking age, gender, marital status, rate of births, rate of deaths, and migration status of those within the household. Let's go to disability. They'll want to know, are there any forms of disability or persons with disability within the household, and what form of disability is that? So these questions will also be on that questionnaire. Education. What are the levels of education attained by members of that household? In addition, is there any training programs that have been undertaken by members of that household that are outside the formal education system? Expect questions like that on the questionnaire as well. And labor force. What is the occupation or the different occupations of the members of that household? What industries do they work in? What are their work hours? Are they employers in that house as well? Expect that in the labor force section of the questionnaire. These are the first four. Let me take you through the other four. Again, this is giving you a better idea of what to expect when the enumerators visit your house from next week, Saturday. In terms of ICT, what sort of access does the house have to ICT in whatever county you live in? In addition, who owns what ICT devices within the house as well? They'll also be keen to look at agriculture. The government has been talking about doing an agriculture census. They haven't gotten around to fully doing it, but in this they'll be able to get an understanding of what sort of agriculture per household they have. They'll be looking at livestock rearing. How many cows, goats, etc. do you have? They'll be looking at farming. What sort of crops do you have? Aquaculture, fish farming. Expect questions like that in the agriculture section. Now, these two might be easy to confuse, so let me take you through them very slowly. Housing conditions and amenities. What are the housing characteristics? In addition, what are the different waste disposal methods within the house? And also, what sort of energy sources power the house? Is it electricity from the national grid? Is it solar? Is it paraffin lamps and so forth? That is covered in this section. And last but not least, household assets. Who owns the assets within the house? 8 thematic areas, many questions. It could take about 30 minutes per household. Now, there are some common questions that keep being asked in regards to the census, and I want to try and answer them for you briefly. Somebody asked, what if you're not comfortable answering some of the questions? And I spoke to the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics today, who stated that you cannot be forced to answer a question that you're uncomfortable with. In fact, it's in the best interests of the Bureau for you to answer voluntarily, because the information is more likely to be true. And you should technically not be penalized if there are certain questions that you're uncomfortable answering. But I use the word technically. All right. What's another question that a lot of Kenyans have been asking regarding the upcoming census? You are also asking, how will they note that the members of a particular household have already been counted to avoid duplication of counting? That's very simple. After the enumeration process is over in your household, the officials should mark either a door or a visible part of your building with a number. And the message out there is, please do not erase that number until at least the 31st of August 2019, because the census, although it's marked for the 24th of August, it will actually run for the next 7 days. 2 more quick questions that I know a lot of Kenyans are grappling with. Some are asking, what if I do not want to be counted? Okay, this one is actually covered in the Statistics Act. If one refuses to respond when the enumerator visits your house, then you are contravening the Statistics Act. In the case of the 2006 Statistics Act, if you're prosecuted, then that could be either 6 months in jail or a fine of 100,000 Kenya shillings, or both. But there's a new Statistics Act, the 2019 Statistics Act, signed by President Uhuru Kenyatta, I believe, yesterday. And for that one, it could be a fine of 1 million Kenya shillings or 6 months in jail, or both. So if you don't want to be counted, the Statistics Act has penalties in regards to that. And finally, some of you might be asking, what will happen to the data? And we pose this question to the Director of Population Statistics at the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, McDonald George Obudho, and this is what he had to say.
It is majorly about getting the whole population, which is a stock at a given time in the whole country. And beyond just the numbers and the distribution of those numbers, we are talking of the characteristics which you will not be able to get from other records. Remember, all this information that we are capturing, at the end of the day, we are going to produce very, very many specific reports. The last census, we produced 18 of them, different reports from the single questionnaire.
They're talking about mapping the population. They are talking about 18 reports released during or after the last population census. How many reports could be released this time around with some of those new categories? Who knows? But that's what they had to say to us a bit earlier on. And of course, you can expect more coverage on this when the news gang begins shortly. One last thing, some of you are asking, when do we get the results? When do we get to hear what the mapping of the nation is actually like? Well, preliminary results will be released 3 months after the end of the exercise. The basic reports of the census are expected within 6 months, while detailed analysis of the data reports should be released within the year. All right, if you have any questions, 2243 is the SMS line.